At 6:47 a.m., Heathrow froze. Prince Harry had landed in London, unannounced and unguarded. Within hours, whispers spread across Buckingham Palace. The Duke carried evidence, not gossip, not rumor, proof. A recording from September 2022, when Queen Camilla made a move that shattered royal protocol. This wasn't a family visit, it was retribution. By sundown, every palace corridor buzzed with one terrifying question. What did Harry bring back that could destroy the Queen's reputation forever? The flight that shook the monarchy. It was 6:47 a.m., October 18, 2024, when British Airways Flight 27L touched down at Heathrow Airport. The arrival logs marked it as routine, but within minutes, the royal security network was on alert. Prince Harry, unannounced and unescorted by palace protocol, had landed in London. Witnesses at Heathrow's VIP terminal described an eerie stillness. No press, no noise, just black SUVs and men with earpieces, one staffer said. It wasn't a visit, it was a mission. Harry had deliberately booked a commercial flight instead of a private jet, a move designed to dodge media trackers. He wore a plain gray jacket, baseball cap low, walking quickly past customs. Yet, every move had been pre-cleared by Scotland Yard's Royal Protection Command, signaling coordination beyond mere coincidence. His own private team from Montecito, including bodyguard Christopher Sanchez, merged seamlessly with British officers. The prince wasn't traveling lightly, he carried classified information. By 7:15 a.m., word reached Windsor Castle. The Duke of Sussex is back in the country. Within 30 minutes, internal palace channels were buzzing. "Why is he here without briefing?" asked one senior aide. Another responded sharply, "Because someone doesn't want this on record." The king's daily agenda was immediately rearranged, and a car was sent toward Heathrow. Yet, Harry refused an escort. "I'll drive myself," he said, boarding a discreet black Audi bound for Windsor. Insiders would later say Harry's arrival triggered the same kind of emergency coordination usually reserved for foreign threats. But this time, the threat came from within. Harry wasn't there to celebrate or reconcile. He had come bearing something dangerous, evidence perhaps, or testimony involving Queen Camilla. Whatever it was, it made even seasoned royal guards exchange nervous glances. And as the sun rose over the castle spires, the monarchy braced for confrontation. By 8:10 a.m., a private call reached King Charles III's office at Clarence House. His aide, Clive Alderton, delivered the message softly. "Sir, your younger son is here, in Windsor." The king froze mid-sentence, staring at the morning brief. His breathing changed. He knew something monumental was coming. Clive suggested notifying Camilla, but Charles hesitated. His words were deliberate, quiet. "Not yet, Clive. Not yet." The calm before the storm had begun, and the king's silence said it all. "Not yet, Clive." The clock on the king's study wall read 8:22 a.m. Though time seemed frozen. King Charles, still in his robe, was seated near his desk at Clarence House, reviewing the red government dispatch box. But his focus was elsewhere. His aide, Sir Clive Alderton, had just informed him of Harry's unscheduled arrival. Charles's color drained. "Did he say why?" he asked quietly. Clive shook his head. "Only that he insists on speaking with you directly, in person." The suggestion to alert Queen Camilla came immediately. "Should I inform Her Majesty?" Clive asked. Charles's answer was swift. "No. Not yet." Those three words carried weight. The king's instinct told him Harry's visit wasn't random. The timing, just days after the second anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, felt deliberate. "He's not here to reconcile," Charles muttered. "He's here to reveal." It wasn't anger in his voice. It was dread. For the next 20 minutes, Charles sat in silence, flipping through the morning's Foreign Office reports, though not reading a word. His mind wandered back to his last private call with Harry in July 2023, when they had spoken briefly about unfinished matters and truth untold. Those phrases, vague at the time, now echoed like prophecy. Camilla entered his thoughts, and unease crept in. What could Harry possibly know, and why now? By 8:45 a.m., Charles stood, placing both hands on the desk. "Prepare Windsor," he said. "I'll meet him there." He refused to take additional guards. "Family matters stay within the family," he insisted. To those nearby, the king looked smaller that morning, not in stature, but in certainty. He had led nations, restored faith, survived scandal. Yet, the thought of facing his youngest son filled him with something unfamiliar: fear. At 9:20 a.m., Charles's motorcade left Clarence House and sped west toward Windsor Castle. Curtains were drawn along the way, but the tension inside the car was heavy. "He said he's come about Camilla," Clive whispered, reading the message from Harry's assistant. Charles's jaw tightened. The phrase hit him like a warning shot. 10 minutes later, the cars entered the castle gates. In the gilded morning room, father and son would meet, not as family, but as adversaries. The Windsor confrontation. 9:45 a.m., October 18, 2024. The ornate morning room at Windsor Castle shimmered in morning light, yet the atmosphere was glacial. King Charles III stood near the mantel, arms folded, while Prince Harry entered quietly. Their eyes met. No handshake, no greeting. Aides were dismissed. The door closed with a solid click. The first words came from Charles. "You didn't announce yourself." Harry's response was equally steady. "I couldn't." "You'd have stopped me." For a long moment, there was only silence, a silence thick enough to smother air. Charles gestured toward a chair, but Harry stayed standing. "So," the king said, his voice sharp but weary, "what is this about?" Harry's eyes didn't waver. "It's about Camilla." The words hit like a thunderclap. Charles froze, fingers tightening around the edge of his desk. "What about her?" he demanded. Harry's tone was flat. "What she knew before the Queen's death." Charles's composure cracked. "You're playing with fire," he warned. "Do you understand the consequences of what you're implying?" Harry stepped closer. "I'm not implying, Father." I'm remembering his words were controlled, yet heavy with conviction. He reached into his jacket pocket and placed a small digital recorder on the table. "You remember this day, September 8th, 2022, the day she died? Camilla knew, hours before anyone else. And she used that time." The king's expression darkened. "You're mistaken," he said, voice trembling. But Harry didn't flinch. "I wish I were." The seconds dragged. Behind them, the ticking clock marked every heartbeat. This wasn't a family reunion. It was an interrogation, polite, royal, and devastating. For Charles, one truth was unavoidable. His son hadn't come to reconcile wounds. He'd come to reopen them. The monarchy was standing on a knife's edge, and Harry had just twisted it. The meeting lasted 42 minutes, ending with no resolution. Charles ordered a recess to review the claims, though both men knew that meant avoidance. As Harry left Windsor, Aides reported the king's hands trembling slightly. "He's rattled," one whispered. By 10:45 a.m., Charles was back in his study, staring at the recorder left behind. In the distance, the chapel bells rang, faint but ominous. The truth, long buried beneath loyalty, was beginning to surface. The Queen's death. The clock in Windsor's morning room had just struck 10:47 a.m., September 9, 2022, the morning after Queen Elizabeth II's passing, when a conversation changed everything. Harry recalled it clearly. Camilla had asked him to meet privately, saying she wished to explain what really happened. In that quiet moment, she revealed something he couldn't forget. "I was informed of Her Majesty's condition nearly 6 hours before the official call," she whispered. Her tone wasn't guilty. It was calculating. Camilla continued, explaining that the early alert came through private medical channels connected to Balmoral Castle, where the Queen spent her final hours. With that knowledge, she instructed her aides at Clarence House to secure personal papers, family correspondence, and select documents tied to succession. It was protocol, she claimed, but Harry now realized it was far more: preparation before power. While William and Catherine were kept uninformed, Camilla ensured she and Charles were the first to act. In Harry's memory, Camilla had looked almost proud. "I wanted your father's transition to be smooth," she said. But that night, when he replayed her words in his mind, they echoed differently. Control disguised as loyalty. Royal protocol demanded that all senior heirs be notified simultaneously when the sovereign's condition deteriorates. Camilla's early access wasn't just improper, it was unconstitutional. And by using that time to adjust internal narratives, she rewrote the monarchy's first moments under Charles's rule. Harry finished his story and met his father's stunned gaze. "That's what she told me," he said softly. "I didn't want to believe it. But the evidence fits the timeline." The king pressed both palms against his temples. "Do you have proof?" Harry nodded. "I recorded part of it. 9th of September 2022, 10:53 a.m., Windsor Library." Charles's breath caught. The monarchy's greatest fear wasn't scandal. It was proof that loyalty had limits. And now, the tape existed. At 11:30 a.m., King Charles retreated into his private chapel. Outside, aides whispered nervously. Inside, the king faced the impossible question. Could his own wife have broken sacred royal code during the crown's darkest hour? Meanwhile, Harry remained on the castle grounds, waiting. He'd said what he came to say, but not everything. A folder still rested in his bag, containing transcripts, dates, and signatures. The truth was only half told. The other half would change everything. The Crown versus the Truth. By 12:02 p.m., Windsor Castle had fallen into silence. King Charles III sat at his mahogany desk, eyes fixed on the digital recorder Harry left behind. The file was titled Queen Transition, Private. When he pressed play, Camilla's voice filled the room, calm, confident, unmistakable. "I've already been told," she said on the recording. "We must act quickly before the others are informed." It lasted 2 minutes and 11 seconds, but its implications stretched across generations. When the playback ended, Charles stared at the wall. He had two choices: bury it or act. "If I release this," he told Sir Clive Alderton, "the monarchy may not survive." Clive's reply was steady. "If you conceal it, sir, it won't deserve to." Outside, Big Ben struck 1 o'clock, echoing like judgment. For the first time in decades, the king questioned the very institution he'd spent his life protecting. The crown's greatest test wasn't foreign. It was internal. At 1:25 p.m., Harry returned. "You've heard it," he said simply. Charles nodded, visibly shaken. "Do you realize what happens if this leaks?" Harry met his gaze. "That depends on how honest you're willing to be." The exchange wasn't anger, it was sorrow. Two men, father and son, torn between truth and duty. "The monarchy survives only on trust," Harry said quietly. "And right now, that trust is bleeding." His words hit deeper than any accusation. Charles rose slowly. "You speak of poison," he said. "But you don't understand consequence." Harry's answer was quick. "Then teach me, but not by hiding." For a long time, the king said nothing. Finally, he whispered, "We protect the crown first." Harry replied, "Then who protects the truth?" The question hung in the air long after he left the room. Windsor's walls had heard centuries of secrets, but never one that threatened its own foundation. As the king wrestled with the decision, word reached Clarence House that Harry was in London. Within hours, whispers traveled through Camilla's inner circle. Her expression, witnesses said, changed completely. The very secret she thought buried in 2022 had resurfaced, and this time she couldn't control the narrative. Alone in her drawing room, she ordered tea, but didn't touch it. The cup trembled on its saucer. For the first time in years, Queen Camilla was afraid. Camilla finds out. It was 5:18 p.m., the autumn light fading over Clarence House, when Queen Camilla received confirmation from her senior aide, Amanda Macmillan. "Your Majesty, Prince Harry met the king today. It's about Balmoral." The color drained from Camilla's face. "He recorded me," she said flatly. Amanda didn't answer. The silence said enough. The conversation from September 2022, the one she'd believed forgotten, was alive again, replaying in the very halls she'd fought to dominate. Camilla walked toward the window overlooking the Mall, watching the steady stream of London traffic. "He means to ruin me," she murmured. But deep down, she knew Harry's motive wasn't revenge. It was exposure. She'd built her reputation on rehabilitation, years after the Diana scandal, transforming from mistress to monarch. Yet, if Harry's recording went public, decades of image building would crumble overnight. The British tabloids wouldn't forgive. Neither would history. By 6 p.m., Camilla summoned her communications director and demanded containment plans. "We issue a statement of misunderstanding," she ordered. But her advisor hesitated. "Ma'am, if the recording exists, denial will only worsen it." Camilla's tone turned icy. "Then we control the timing." She began calling allies in Parliament and media, trying to craft a counter-narrative before Windsor released anything. Panic wasn't her style, but desperation was close behind. As night fell, Camilla poured herself a glass of gin and sat by the fireplace, staring at the flames. "I protected this family," she whispered, "and they'll destroy me for it." Her reflection in the mirror looked older, weary. Somewhere in Windsor, Harry was waiting for her response. She knew the confrontation was inevitable. Whether tomorrow or a week later, the day would come when she'd have to face the son of Diana and her own past. That night, 10:45 p.m., the palace corridors whispered with movement. Messages flashed between aides. At Windsor, Harry requested one more audience, with everyone present: Charles, Camilla, William, and Catherine. "We end this privately," he said, "or it ends us publicly." The king hesitated but agreed. A family council was set for the following evening, 7 p.m. It would be the first time in years all four faced one another behind closed doors. The monarchy's reckoning was about to begin. Truth or tradition? The next evening, October 19, 2024, the gilded doors of Windsor Castle's Green Drawing Room closed at exactly 7:02 p.m. Inside sat King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and Prince Harry. It was the first time in 5 years that all 5 royals had been in the same room. The mood was icy, every breath audible. Charles began quietly. "We are here as a family," Harry replied, firm and unflinching. "No, Father. We're here because truth can't stay buried." William leaned forward, eyes sharp. "What truth?" he asked, though he already knew. Harry placed the digital recorder on the table once again. "You'll hear it for yourselves." Camilla shifted uncomfortably, her hands gripping the armrest. The room fell silent as her own voice played. Calm, controlled, revealing the moment she acted before the Queen's death was confirmed. Catherine's expression tightened. William's jaw clenched. When it ended, no one spoke. Only the faint ticking of the mantel clock broke the silence. Charles exhaled heavily. "This family has endured enough humiliation," he said, voice trembling. Harry shot back. "Then stop pretending silence is strength." For a brief second, father and son stared at each other, equals, adversaries, reflections of 2 eras colliding. Catherine finally spoke, her voice measured but cutting. "Protocol exists for a reason," she said. "It keeps the crown clean." Camilla's reply was sharp. "And I protected it when others hesitated." The word hesitated landed like an accusation. The conversation spiraled between dignity and despair. William stood abruptly. "We cannot lead if the foundation is deceit." Charles turned away, unable to face the truth aloud. Harry's tone softened. "We fix this behind closed doors, or the world will fix it for us." The ultimatum hung heavy in the royal air. After a long pause, Charles gave a single nod. "Tomorrow," he said, "we confront it. All of it." It was no longer avoidance. It was Judgment Day. When the family meeting ended at 8:11 p.m., Windsor's corridors echoed with unease. Courtiers exchanged glances, sensing something monumental had shifted. Harry didn't return to London that night. Instead, he stayed in the old Frogmore cottage, the same place he once called home with Meghan in 2019. He spent hours pacing, writing, and recording notes. Tomorrow's meeting would be the final test, not of loyalty, but of conscience. The crown's most guarded secret was about to face the light. Camilla faces the fire. October 20th, 2024, 7 p.m. sharp. The Royal Library at Windsor glowed under chandelier light as Camilla entered, dressed in grey silk. King Charles, seated near the hearth, looked aged beyond his years. Harry stood by the window, hands clasped. William and Catherine sat together, united in quiet resolve. As Camilla approached, her eyes met Harry's. "I suppose," she began, her voice cold but controlled, "we're here to discuss my lapse in judgment." No one disagreed. Harry spoke first. "You said you knew before Balmoral made the call." Camilla nodded slowly. "Yes, I acted because the crown could not appear unprepared." Charles whispered, "But that was not your call to make." Her eyes flashed. "It became my call when no one else acted." William rose. "You stole time from all of us. From her." The weight of his words filled the room. For a moment, even the chandeliers seemed to dim. Catherine's tone was steady but filled with quiet fury. "You used those hours to reshape power. You rewrote the moment our queen died." Camilla's composure cracked. "I saved your monarchy," she snapped. "I carried your father's burden when none of you were ready." Harry stepped closer. "Then why hide it?" Camilla didn't answer. The silence was suffocating. It wasn't just a confession, it was exposure. Centuries of royal restraint had just collided with raw human guilt. Charles finally broke. "Enough!" His voice was trembling, yet firm. "We end this tonight." He looked at Camilla, then at his sons. "The truth will stay within these walls, but the behavior that led here will not repeat." Harry nodded but added, "Then let's make sure it never can." For the first time that evening, Charles agreed without argument. In that single moment, the king, the queen, and the future king stood in the same truth, fragile but undeniable. At 9:42 p.m., as the royal convoy left Windsor, reporters stationed outside sensed unrest. Aides refused comment, saying only, "It was a private family discussion." But within the hour, leaks began. A senior insider confirmed the Queen admitted her role in preempting the announcement. Palace communications scrambled to draft a statement. Behind closed doors, the royal lawyers and advisors gathered in Buckingham Palace's white drawing room. The monarchy wasn't collapsing yet, but it was dangerously close to breaking. A secret deal to save the monarchy. By 10:30 a.m., October 21, 2024, the Royal Crisis Team assembled in Buckingham Palace. Present were King Charles, Sir Clive Alderton, Princess Anne, and Privy Council Secretary Andrew Parker. The objective? Damage control. Anne, though not involved until now, spoke first. "We must act before the tabloids turn speculation into fact." Charles agreed. "We will conduct an internal review, discreet, efficient, absolute." Harry was later informed by secure call. "Your evidence will remain private." The monarchy must heal quietly. The plan unfolded swiftly. A confidential inquiry, led by Sir Alan Reid, was authorized to review the 2022 Balmoral communications chain. Camilla's involvement would be scrutinized, but behind palace doors. She would retain her title but lose decision-making authority in state matters. To the public, it would appear as a temporary health-related withdrawal. Internally, it was exile with elegance. Harry agreed, reluctantly. "If this preserves the family's integrity," he said, "then let it be." Over the next 72 hours, aides redrafted media statements, emphasizing unity and reflection. Meanwhile, select archives were sealed, recordings logged under Royal Confidentiality Act 1952. Catherine, though furious, supported the decision. "The monarchy survives on control," she told William privately. "We'll win by restraint." For William, that restraint was agony. "She changed our mother's story once," he said bitterly, "and now we're helping her again." Catherine's reply was simple. "We're saving the crown, not her." By October 25, 2024, the palace issued its statement. "Their Majesties, united in duty, have agreed to undertake an internal reflection on recent communications regarding the late Queen's transition. No mention of wrongdoing, no mention of recording, just polished language concealing catastrophe. But behind the curtain, boundaries had shifted. For the first time since her coronation, Queen Camilla was sidelined. The monarchy survived another crisis, not by virtue, but by silence. In the weeks that followed, the royal calendar resumed. The king and queen appeared together on November 3, 2024, smiling at a charity event in Cornwall, though insiders said they barely spoke. Harry quietly returned to California, departing from Heathrow Terminal 5 under heavy security. He came as a rebel, said one aide, but left as a reformer. Yet beneath the calm surface, trust remained fractured. The deal had saved the crown, but not the family. A new royal order? By December 2024, the monarchy had regained its public footing, at least in appearance. Christmas preparations at Sandringham Estate resumed, and official portraits were released featuring Charles, William, and Catherine, notably without Camilla. Palace insiders called it a soft transition. The public saw unity. Insiders saw restructuring. For the first time in years, the institution was quietly rearranging itself around William and Catherine, symbols of a cleaner, more stable future. Camilla, meanwhile, retreated into private life. Her public engagements were suspended indefinitely, her communications restricted to approved press statements. The woman once called the power behind the throne now found herself isolated within Ray Mill House, Wiltshire. She sees no one but her dogs and her books, a staff member revealed. The recording remained locked in Royal Archives Room B17, its existence known to only 5 people. The monarchy had moved on, but the memory hadn't. On January 6, 2025, nearly 3 months after his secret return, Harry gave a speech in Los Angeles, quietly referencing his trip. "Sometimes the truth doesn't destroy," he said. "It disinfects." Those who knew smiled. He was referring to Windsor. Behind him, Meghan watched proudly, but the shadow of that confrontation lingered. For all his rebellion, Harry had done the one thing no one else could: forced honesty into the House of Windsor. By spring 2025, the public story was complete. The king recovered, the queen resting, the family united. But the private story endured, written in whispers and sealed files. The monarchy had survived another storm by rewriting the truth one more time. For now, peace had returned. But history has a way of resurfacing, especially when the next generation carries both the blood of Diana and the proof of what power tried to hide. By the week's end, London had seen the unthinkable: a son exposing his stepmother, and a monarchy caught between truth and tradition. Camilla's reputation lay in ruins, her silence louder than denial. Harry returned to California not as a rebel, but as the one man brave enough to confront the crown's secrets. And as King Charles stared at the sealed evidence in Windsor, he knew one thing for certain: the age of royal silence was over.